Exactly. And so, and when you get married, of course no one can live up to the standards you were taught as a kid because it's not realistic. But that's what we're taught. And so then you're taught that it's okay to go and do all these other things, to ignore your child, to ignore your marriage, to ignore your household duties, because we're taught that if you're not loved the perfect way that you can find it somewhere else, and it's okay because that's what everybody else does. And they do this so that we hate each other, so that we're against each other, so that we don't. Neighbors are no longer friends, because they're worried that your neighbor might be sleeping with your wife too, it's society.
Yeah, it's like infidelity is just expected now. It's just crazy that the people aren't going to celebrate 10 years of a solid marriage anymore.
No, it's unheard of nowadays. It doesn't happen. And the institution of marriage is just, it's not what it should be. It shouldn't be institutionalized at all. Marriage should be like a bonding thing. It shouldn't even be religious-based, It should be because two people have a dedication to each other, and you shouldn't be tying like the government and your money and your taxes and everything else to it. It should be just between those two people. Once it's become institutionalized, like everything else, our school systems, then it destroys it. It just completely destroys what it truly is, and then our perception of that is faulted. We no longer see it for what it truly is. We no longer see love for what it is, and love has nothing to do with like man and woman and sex, Love has to do with caring about one another, about like standing up and giving a shit about everybody else that's around you, because that's the one thing that we lack in this world, and love is the one true answer, and it's the one thing that can bring this world back together, is if we see that and we love each other instead of like getting up and hating each other. And I don't care what anybody says, the opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is not caring one way or another, and that's
Wouldn't it
where
be
we're
apathy?
going. Exactly. It's love and hate are still very strong emotions, right? So it's like you still care about that person. It may not be in a positive way, but not caring is the worst thing ever, and that's where we're going. Most people don't care what happens to their neighbor. Why? Because it's not them. And that's not right. That's what we need to get away from. We're supposed to support our neighbor, and that's where we can grow. And it has nothing to do with race, religion, anything, sex, anything. All it has to do with is that we're a community, and that's where we need to get back to. We need to get back to understanding and touch, handshake, a hug, some contact with another person, because we have contact with another triggers like the endorphins and all the things in our mind that happen when we get excited watching a fast action TV show. Happens like when you touch someone. Just touch, interaction. And it's something that the government and everything that's coming down from the New World Order up, coming down through the pyramid to the lower rungs, is that they want it separated. They don't want you to touch each other. They don't want that, because if we communicate and we talk and we actually interact, then nothing can stop us. The amount of energy and the sound waves and the vibration that happens from two people interacting grows so strong, and it's actually a readable experience. Like you can actually see the energy and the temperature in people rise just from simple contact, and the chemicals that are released from the mind that happens just from simple contact. And instead, we look for drugs and escape in TV and alcohol and everything that disconnects us to find the same thing that it would just take simple touch and community to find. And it's insane.
Right, exactly. So your child, your son, I'm guessing he doesn't go to a babysitter every day.
No, he did for a long time. I was home with him until he was about a year and a half old, and then I went back to work, and that lasted, about 9 months that I was back at work, and he was continuing to get sick at school, starting to act out, everything else, and then I've been home with him since March of last year, and planning on not letting him go back to school. I wish I would have known more about vaccines when he was born. And one thing that people should know when it comes to public schools, this is something they don't tell you, that they always say you have mandatory vaccines, correct? That you cannot go to school without having these vaccines.
Right, yeah, we just had Alan Phillips on again on Friday to discuss that myth.
Yeah, you can actually go up to them, and they won't tell you, but if you go up to the school, you can ask for a waiver, just a simple waiver that says that you take responsibility yourself if your child gets sick from one of the diseases that can be done by vaccines. You just have to ask for a waiver, and then that's it. You don't have to get those vaccines that are filled with, who knows these days. It's scary. The amount of mercury that's in that first hepatitis B shot that a child receives when they're in the hospital, the amount of mercury that's in that shot would take like a 350-pound man to safely process it through their system, and they give it to an infant when they're first born.